Yeah.
Cool. So let's just get started. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to MBSI Python coding workshop for beginners. My name is Alex, and I'm currently doing my master's degree in biomedical engineering, and this is my final semester. It's my pleasure to be your tutor with the other 9 student tutors this year. It all started with these 2 guys, Alan and Ryan. They're 2 medical students who designed and ran the MD Python coding workshop last year, tried to help their fellow students and friends and to teach some basic programming principles to them. Later, they helped to form MBSI, a multidisciplinary medtech and biotech student organizations, with Alan as the chair and Ryan as the vice chair internal. This year, we expanded a little bit from pure medical students to some bachelor students as well. That's why we also have some students from biomedicine or engineering here. But anyway, we do hope that you all enjoy these workshops. So let's meet our teams. As I just said, we are very lucky to have 9 student tutors this year to help you. If you have any questions, please just let us know at any time. Don't be shy. That's why we're here to help you, okay? About our workshops. Well, I'm not sure how many of you guys attended the launching event, but this workshop is totally designed for the beginners. So if you don't have any background or experience, don't worry, we're all the same. We'll teach you all the basic stuff. So yeah, let's just start the journey together. One thing worth attention is this year we're trying to use a software called Anaconda, and this is what the link is about. So basically, you need to download that software and install it so that you can get access to the worksheet, exercise, and slide and other resource. It's pretty important. So please make sure that you have done that. We have provided you short videos and instruction documents. So if you can't find it, I think the chat is working on that. If you're still not sure how to do that, don't worry. Just ask, and there will be some tutors to help you. If you're curious about our society, our groups, and please join us on our Facebook page, and the recordings of each workshop will be uploaded after. So if you missed any, just have a look. All right. Yeah, so this is the outline of our workshops. So basically, we have 5 workshops in total planned. We'll try our best to cover every fundamental topics as we can, but it really depends on our progress and time. Well, unfortunately, we can't really cover everything. Well, some very interesting parts such as machine learning, AI, image analysis, maybe we don't really have time to do that, but we do have some other workshops such as data science workshop and bioinformatics workshop later this year. So keep your eyes on that. So if you really want to dig in deeper, maybe you should join them. And this is very basic for you. Well, of course, you need some basic knowledge and skills to dig in deeper anyway. So for each workshop, basically it's 2 hours. For the first 20 to 30 minutes, it's just a simple recap and a presentation like what's happening right now. And after that, you will be sent into breakout rooms with tutors, 1 or 2. It depends on how many attendees on that day. It's your time to really work on the worksheet that you just download from the Anaconda and the Jupyter Lab. So it's your time to do that. And if you have any questions, of course, please ask us. That's why we're here. We're really willing to help you. One more thing is, please remember to help us fill out our feedback form. And the link will be provided to you soon, and also at the end of this introduction lecture. All right, so let's just get started to the exciting part. A question for you. So what is your understanding at the moment about programming? Can anybody tell me what is your understanding? You can just unmute yourself or say something if you have any thoughts. Anybody?
Just basically telling a computer what to do, like commands.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to say. Because basically, you tell the computer to do a certain task, but just look at the guy on the left. Is he really doing programming? Well, like I could doubt so, because maybe he's just using the computer. So how we actually say, oh, this guy is definitely doing a programming? Well, it might be something like the second picture, right? It looks complicated, and we don't really know what's happening. So I think the key difference is really you want something to be stored on your computer, and these things, which we call it program, okay? It can be used repeatedly so that every time you just open and click it and give it a command, and it will give you an output. So basically, programming is for you to design these kind of things. And that's essentially programming. It's not really that difficult. Now the problem becomes, if we really want to design something, if you want to design a program, how it actually happens? How do we actually communicate with the machine? How do we let the machine know what we want? Well, our human being, we speak natural language, such as English, such as Spanish, right, Mandarin, Arabic. But computer also speak their own language, and that's called machine language, or you say machine code. Well, what is machine language? It's nothing really but just 0 and 1s. So basically, machine use 1 and 0s as a language themselves to communicate with each other and talk and think, right? So how do we actually conquer this language barrier? How can we let the computer understand what we're talking about? So that's where it comes to interesting. Human, we're too smart, so we designed a translation tool, which is called programming languages, okay? As you can say, if you understand why it's called programming language and what is the programming language, you will say, okay, there are actually so many ways to translate things from English to machine language. All right, so that's the reason why we have so many different programming languages nowadays. A good example that I want to give you is something called C. C is a very old and very fundamental programming language, which has probably over 60 years history now. It's very fundamental, so it's pretty similar to the machine language. That makes it very hard for us to program because, well, think about our human, we don't really speak machine language. So, well, if we use their logic, it just makes our life quite difficult, right? But the benefits of using C, of course, is it has a lot of functions. Basically, you can use C to do almost every task. All right. After that, some people think, okay, maybe we should specify it a little bit. Okay, so we don't really want too many tasks. For example, like if we want to provide a data science some language to use, why can't we just specify this language into a specific area, like data analysis, data processing? And that is actually R. Maybe a lot of you guys have heard before or have used it before. So R is a really handy programming language that is designed for dealing with data. And some other examples like HTML is really good for website maintenance and operations. And if you're from engineering background, you definitely know what is MATLAB. It's basically for mathematic operations, right? But you can't really use R, HTML, or MATLAB to really say, I want to develop a game like an Angry Bird. It's nearly impossible for them to do that. So now we do need something that is like very fundamental, that can do everything, but also very easy for us to use. So that's why Python has become so popular, because it literally, like C, can do almost everything. And it's also very easy to use for us. Another big reason why we're using Python nowadays is because it has a lot of supported libraries. What is library? It's just like package, extra package and add-on that can provide Python, let Python be able to do some specific tasks. For example, like if you want to plot a diagram, right? You literally just use one specific library so that you can plot easily. If you want to dealing with data like R, you can just download some library related to the data analysis. So it will kind of have the similar function like R. So, well, that may be not very, it's probably not really the a reason that you say, okay, now I just definitely want to learn Python now. So that's why I'm going to keep giving you some examples that's related to our areas, such as like medical research or biological research, so that you will have the understanding of why we really want to use Python. So let's think about COVID-19. It's always a good example to say, of course. Well, last year, a lot of labs, they actually proudly announced that, oh, they successfully obtained the genetic sequence of COVID-19. So, but like, how are you going to do with those sequences then after you finish PCR or some other technologies, right? You need to store those sequences in the computer and you need to process it. For example, like compare it to some reference genome, or maybe you just want to analyze some mutations that happens on it, right? But you have to do something with it. So how do we actually read this data like into computer, right? So that's why we're using Python, because Python has a very specific library called scikit-bio. And this library actually gives Python the function to directly read the genetic data, genetic sequence from your lab file. So that's where it comes to handy. And it's super useful. Think about, you can't really use this function in other languages like C. Well, you can literally, but you probably need to spend a week to really develop some programs yourselves rather than just downloading Python and use its pre-made libraries. And that's why we love Python, because it makes life easier, much, much easier. And of course, there's some other applications that related nowadays, but we don't really have time to cover everything. If you are interested in these topics, of course, we will provide you bioinformatics workshops later this year. So if you want to know more about how we use Python to do especially biological research, all right, such as building a phylogenetic tree, building like finding out the mutations and detect your disease, or keep your eyes on our bioinformatics workshop later. So that's going to be very interesting. Yeah, and this is just a very brief introductions to what is programming and why we love Python and why we want to gain some skills in programming. And I hope that you enjoy it. So next, I will pass to Benny to talk about the real hardcore knowledge about Python. Before that, please remember to fill our feedback form and we can develop in our future. Thank you. All right, it's your turn, Benny.
Yeah. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear my voice? Nice. Thanks, Alex, for the intro presentation. And hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Benny, and I will be presenting the contents of our first workshop. But before we move on to the next slide, I would just like to note that this presentation is meant to be a primer for what you guys will be doing in the breakout rooms. And the important information covered in the presentation has been repeated in the worksheet for you to refer to. So don't feel like you need to take any notes. Before going further into how to code your programs, I would like to introduce 4 key terms first. First of all, what is program? As Alex mentioned, program is a set of instructions that a computer can interpret and perform a specific task. And code is the instruction written in a particular programming language. And function is a group of related statements that can carry out specific tasks. It is reusable. You give the input and the function processes it with some calculation and returns an output. But for this lesson, we are going to learn the Python's inbuilt functions only, and we will talk about how to create your own function in our 4th workshop. Call is basically just telling the program to execute the function. In general, you will write the function name followed by a set of round brackets, and inside the bracket, you can type your input arguments. Characters Characters in Python refer to any letters, numbers, space, punctuation marks, or symbols that can be typed on a computer. And string is the first data type that I will introduce. There are more data types, such as integers and float, that we will talk about more next week. String is sequence of those characters contained by single or double quotation marks. You can think of strings like a pearl necklace, and the characters are like the pearls that are chained together. But be careful while you type a string, you should use single or double quotation marks only. If we put the double quotes at the front and a single quote at the end, it will produce an error. Next up is our print function for today. And the print function is used to print out specific message to the screen. You can use the syntax of the print function. You can see the syntax of the print function below. We put an object inside the brackets of the function and gives an output of what you type in. In our example one, we would like to print out a single string in a line. We have inputted a string inside the function saying hello world. And the text in purple in the print is the print function. And the color text in green, the hello world, is the argument of the function. And the blue text at the second line is the output. And in the example two, if we want to print out multiple strings like in a line, we just need to put multiple arguments inside the brackets and separate them by a comma. The new line character. The new line character is denoted by a backslash with a letter N, and its function is literally to start at the next line. You can compare the two examples here. The first example prints without new line character, whereas the second example prints with new line character, but they both give an exactly the same output. Comments are annotated by the programmers. It aims to help others who look at your code to work out what it does and provide further explanations. It is also useful when you come back to the code that you have written ages ago and have forgotten what it does. And in Python, comments start with hash character and continue until end of the line. There are some examples below showing a couple ways of using comments. Okay, here is the first question for today's workshop. Instead of accessing the poll area, we will use the inbuilt polling this time. And I hope you guys can see it. Sorry, I will launch again. I'll stop in 5 seconds. Yep. Most of you guys choose your answer. There's 2 lines of output, but the answer is 3. It is a tricky question. There are 2 new line characters inside the print function here. So therefore, it must have 3 lines of output, in which the third line is totally blank. Yep. Okay, the variables. Think of variable like a box and a value like a ball. The variable is the container that stores the data values, and a variable is assigned a value with using the assignment operator. In addition, assignment operator looks like the equal sign, but it does not have the same meanings as maps in Python. And assignment is not commutative, meaning the order cannot be swapped around. The variable is always on the left-hand side of the assignment operator, and the value is always on the right-hand side of the assignment operator. For instance here, the text in black, the year level, on the left-hand side of the assignment operator are the variables. and the text in red, the MD2, MD3, on the right-hand side of the sum operator are the values. Rules of naming variables. Having names that make sense and describing the values they are storing are strongly recommended. Although it will not return any errors if you name your variables that are not making sense. However, it helps you and others to read your programs more easier. For the character restriction, Python only allows lowercase and uppercase letters from A to Z and numbers from 0 to 9 and an underscore. Underscore can be used to separate multiple words, such as separate unimail into uni_mail, and this variable is assigned to 1. And the final restriction is the variable can be started with a digit. Like the example, the digit 1 variable name is assigned to 1, which is invalid. Second question for the day. Which naming of the variable is incorrect? Is correct, sorry. And the question. Most of you guys choose the option D is correct. Yep, it's correct. Oh, sorry. The other options are incorrect because they all contain a space in the naming of the or they all contain a space in the naming of the variables in which Python does not allow to. Yep. So only the variable _1 is correct of the naming. String concatenation, it means combining strings together. And in print function, we can use addition operator or multiplication operator to combine the strings together. In our first example, we use an addition operator to combine two words, hello and world, into a sentence, hello world. In example 2, we use a multiplication operator followed with a number 3, a digit 3, meaning to repeat the word hello 3 times. How do we print multiple arguments in a print function? In this example, I assign the variable name as Benny and age as 21. Both values are in the types of string, as they are both enclosed by double quotation marks. And in our third line here, inside the print function, arguments are all separated by commas. And the print function will return my name is Benny in the first line, and I am 21 years old in the second line. F-string formatting. Rather than printing multiple strings and joining them together, you can merge everything into one string first, then print it. By using this method, the output is very similar to what was printed in the previous slide with one small differences, but I will let you guys figure out what that is in the breakup room later. Input function. Input function is the second function that I will introduce in today's workshop. Its main role is to convert the input into a string. We put the input function on the right-hand side of the sum operator, storing the input in a variable that you can use it later for further processing. For the example, we store the input of 10 here into a variable named the pain score. Hence, we use print function to return the result. But don't be stressed for how it exactly works. More on this will be in the later workshop. And finally, we have help function, which is the last function that I will introduce today. This function helps to find out what a function does and how to use it, including its input arguments. You will be using this function a lot as you begin to learn more programming terms that are new to you. As you can see, you can do more complicated things with print function than what you just learned. And now it is the time to bridge you guys into the breakout room and work through your worksheet, and you'll be find out more about the contents. And